For this demonstration, I want to show you a demo of coloring a floor plan. And the technique we're going to use is marker on either marker paper or trace. And it's a separate sheet of paper, separate from the drawing that you'll be working on. So you'll want to have your drawing in black and white, and it can be hand drawn or it can be printed out from the computer. Then you'll need your marker paper and markers to go ahead and color over the top of it. For my demonstration, I use this partial plan, and I use the CAM Scanner app to scan it in. And for this particular sheet, I use the black and white filter so I would get a nice clean copy. Next, using the batch scan feature in CAM Scanner, I went ahead and did a shot of just the overlay. So you can see that this is a piece of trace that was set on top of the plan, and then the markers were going across the paper with some added drop shadow. So I only did a partial part of the plan. And for this one, I experimented with the original and ended up using the lighten filter in CAM Scanner. And then lastly, these were the 3 markers that I ended up using for this demo. So I've got 2 different Copic markers. I don't see that I've got the colors here, but one of them's putty and one of them is a warm gray, I think number 3. And then for the shadows, I ended up using the Chart Pack Add marker with a cool gray number 6, just because I didn't have a Copic handy in that color. So I just used the 3 markers and I was able to get 4 different colors out of that. Next, after they're scanned, I'm going to open Photoshop and go ahead and create a new drawing. I will use 11 by 17. That was actually the original size of my drawing, and I only scanned partial, so it'll still be bigger than I need. I'll go ahead and choose Create. And then next, I'm going to place the background file in the line work, and then I will place the colored version on top of it. So first I'll place embedded, navigate to my files, and I should get all 3 of these coming up. So first I'll just take in number 1, and I'm going to leave it just the size it is in the middle of the page. I can adjust that later if needed. So I'll click the check mark, and then you can see over here in the layers panel that it made its own layer. So I can go ahead, double click and rename that so I know the difference. Next, I'll go ahead and place the second one, the colored drawing, and I'll bring that in over the top. And when I'm taking the pictures, it's important that I have the exact same angle. Not sure I did in this, but thankfully Photoshop has some tools that will help me to fix that if needed. So accept that, change the layer name. And you can see that since that color is right on top, it is going to bury the line work that's at the bottom. Let's fix that typo. So one thing I could do is just drag the layer underneath, and that's not working either because that line work is not a transparent background. So to fix that, I could go ahead and modify the layer to multiply. Let's try with this one. And now you can see the color coming through. So let's zoom in because things are not aligned and we need to go in and fix that. So I can adjust either layer. I think I'll work with the color overlay layer, use the move tool here. and just sort of use my mouse or my arrow keys to shimmy the line work in place. And it's still not lining up, and that's basically due to a size difference. So I'm going to drag that drawing a little bit smaller. And then once again, start to kind of tuck it into place. Still not quite right. And it also might need a little bit of a rotation. I can see that it aligns here in the corner of the seminar room, but not in the mechanical room, nor is it touching that edge. So first I'll go ahead and expand it a bit. Once again, using my arrow keys to nudge it into place. It's actually starting to come together without rotating. But it might need just that little bit of a shift. And again, a touch smaller. So if I hover over the top center, I get the little tool to rotate. So I'll go in and just make a tiny adjustment there. And then once again, nudging it into place with the arrow keys. And we're getting a little bit closer that way. One way to ensure that it does get closer is to maybe do a room at a time. Or I can always color directly onto the drawing. I'm rotating a little bit more and then making a little more adjustment with my arrow keys. And I think finally, I'm pretty happy with this. Maybe one more little rotation down. And move over. And single click that check mark. So it's a little bit still need some work down there. But for all intents and purposes, it is pretty well put together. And really, it's a fairly quick process. And now we'll use the crop tool, kind of crop into that area of the plan that I had colored. And then I can also crop out the label down there. And let's see. If I want to go ahead and make those changes, I've right-clicked on the line work layer and I will choose rasterize layer. And now I should be able to go in and let's say I don't really want this legend in here. Should be able to delete that. And then once again, I can come in and select some of the areas of the smudges, clean that up a little bit. I'm not going to get all of them, obviously, but a little bit cleaner. Control D to deselect. And let's zoom out once again. The same would be true if I needed to clean up anything on the color overlay layer. I could rasterize that layer. And now I could come in and if I wanted, say, a cleaner edge on where that transition is occurring, I could come in here and use the select tool and just maybe select that edge and delete, and then I'll get a nice clean area there. However, I don't really like the look of that white against the color of the paper. So I could either use the eyedropper tool and sample that and then fill that area back in, but I'm not getting the same variation there. So if I zoom out now, it might be a little bit noticeable, but you can play around with it. But that's just another technique to use. And it's nice when you don't want, when you have an original drawing and you don't want to put marker down on it. It gives you some options to play with the color and then merge the two objects together using the scanning technique and editing in Photoshop.